Welcome to Crosstown Cardboard episode 71 with Craig at New York City Sports Cards, the math teacher, the soccer coach, originally from Long Island, now in New York City, and myself, Carmine at Carmine's Cards, the sports storyteller down here in Greenville, South Carolina, by way of Ossining, New York, which is located in Westchester County. And for episode 71, Craig came up with another great title. It's called The Show Before the Show because it's the podcast show that we're doing right now, also available on YouTube, before the sports card show, which we're going to in Atlanta, Culture Collision, which will be at, Craig, 2 days after this episode comes out. And it will be the second time that we will ever get to meet in person, despite recording for like a year and 4 months on the podcast. It still kind of blows my mind with that. But episode 71, the show before the show, and we always open it up. We open up our show by you explaining the title a little bit more.
So the show that I went to, by the way, as you pointed out, you being from Westchester County, the show was in White Plains.
Yep.
So I was in Westchester County yesterday, but yeah, we are setting up for the first time together. So that'll be another element of excitement there. For a big show, nothing's like the National, right? But when you think of like the next tier of shows below the National, you got your Dallas show, even though I've never been there. So what am I even talking about? The Midwest Monster, and let's put Culture Collision right up there.
And Burbank, I would say.
And Burbank, right? So there's like that next tier of big shows. So for me personally, this is my first time setting up at a big show like this.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to use this show as a chance to talk about it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to use the show I went to yesterday as a way to prepare for it. So shows got a lot of different meanings here.
That's right. And
we're about to show you how.
Oh my gosh. There's so many shows. There's a show and tell taking place. But yeah, I've only set up at Burbank before, as far as like, and I love how you put that, the next tier of shows underneath the National. And I set up at Burbank, totally different experience. I set up at a show in San Francisco, but it wasn't anything like what Burbank was as far as size and scale. And it does make you put your big boy pants on when you step into that arena. So good thing we have Big Ken, Sports Card Lessons, to help us out. He's also setting up with us at Culture Collision in Atlanta, and he set up and had great success as a dealer at the most recent National. So a quick table of contents before we get into how we're preparing for the show on this show. We wanted to talk about Craig went to a different card show, and I went to a trade night. So we're going to each tell the stories of how those went, and then we'll get into our preparations for Culture Collision after that. So Craig, how did this card show go for you? First of all, where was it and what was the setup?
So this was the White Plains show at the Westchester County Center, a show I've been to multiple times before. I used to go to a little bit growing up. Was one that I would frequent, and it's put on by JPS Sports, which they do a lot of New York, Long Island shows. So it's perfect because I had off yesterday. I took the Metro North up, and I was going to walk 15 minutes in the cold once I got off the train. But as I'm walking off the train, I run into my friend Mike, who happened to take the same train as me. So we happened to get off the train together, and he has a ride waiting for him. The person who's giving him a ride to the show once he got off the train was someone that I sold the Dwayne Wade card to a couple of weeks ago, who lives in New York City.
Wow.
So luckily I saved 15 minutes and I wasn't too cold going into the show. But it was a good show. I want to say it was over 100 tables. Last time we did the show, there was 2 different floors. There's only 1 floor this time, which I was a little disappointed about because I went in expecting 2 rooms. But nonetheless, I was there from 10 to 1:30 with the goal in mind to make some moves. You know, I think about what makes a successful show for anyone. And I think many would agree it's just transactions. Whether you're buying, right? I mean, tell me if you disagree. Whether you're buying, you're selling, you're trading, big cards, dollar box cards. I just think like the act of making some sort of move, the more transactions you make, it's just fun because transactions are very mentally stimulating, and they force you to use a lot of people skills and negotiating. So in the 3.5 hours I was there, I made 7 different deals
Wow.
And I came away with quite a variety. And I feel like it really propelled me to being even more ready for next weekend's show.
Wow, nice. And you know what's funny is that we may have, and I think we've mentioned this on the show before, but we may have been at the White Plains show at the Westchester County Center at the same time. We might have crossed paths as kids, let's say 20 years ago, because that was my hometown show. And I remember going with my dad and, being amazed that we picked up a LeBron James autograph way back when. And I've talked about that on the show before. That is just crazy to think that, we could have crossed paths 20 years ago as kids. But, and it sounds like the show's about the same size as when I was going. So you picked up 7 cards, or you made 7 transactions at least. What did you come away with? How did this set you up for Culture Collision?
And before we get into the cards, I do want to say it was pretty cool running into multiple people and being like,
Yeah.
"Oh, Craig, I'm from Crosstown Cardboard. I'm a podcast supporter." Like even just waiting in line to buy my ticket, Domer Cards is a listener.
Yeah.
And he went out his way to say hello. So that was really cool. Just like,
Yeah.
love what you're doing for the hobby. Like, man, appreciate the support. We're just going to keep talking about cards. So keep on listening.
That's great.
But I didn't do this intentionally, but I came away with, I sold some, I traded some, but I came away with 12 new cards
Wow.
that I didn't have when I woke up yesterday. And the fun thing about this, again, total by accident, 4 of which were baseball cards, 3 of which were basketball cards, 3 soccer cards, and 2 football cards. So totally unintentional. I came away with a nice variety because I want at my show to have something for everyone.
There you go.
Of those 12 cards, this was a little bit more intentional. Of those 12 cards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the 12 were Atlanta cards.
Nice.
So my thought is, right, it makes sense. We're going to be in Atlanta. Let me have some Atlanta cards in my inventory.
Mm-hmm.
You would think in theory that works, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you can only set yourself up for success so much. You can't control the outcome.
Sure. But even so, stick to your principles. What are the cards that I like? And how can I tie that into Atlanta-themed cards? So I'm just going to get right into it. This came from John behind the diamond. 2003 Topps Tribute. Hank Aaron, piece of a game-used bat.
Nice. Atlanta Braves and John from behind the diamond. Great guy. One of the legends of the hobby.
If I can't move that card, I have no problem keeping it. Another one I got, even though he's not on the team anymore, I actually picked this up from a friend. I'm drawing a blank on his name, so I guess he's not much of a friend then.
Yeah, I was gonna say great friend. Hopefully he's not a listener.
He's actually a middle school teacher at the middle school that I went to.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is a 2021 Panini Immaculate John Collins game-worn giant piece of his number.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome.
Huge. And again, Atlanta Hawks card.
That is that's like a quarter of the number.
Yeah, it's like the whole number. This also from John behind the diamond, 2000 in Upper Deck, Dominique Wilkins on card autograph. Again, if I can't move it for whatever reason, that's fine. That will fit perfectly in my collection.
And I love that set, by the way, if you can hold that up again, of all the legends they had in that autograph set. And that's really like you were saying, and I loved what you said, I think it was last episode, about how many cool cards you can find for $100 or less that will be quick movers, especially right now in a tougher economy where people are holding on to their money much more tightly. And that Dominique Wilkins, I think that's probably around a $50 card or somewhere near there.
Sure.
I mean, that's super cool, especially being in Atlanta. He's the best Hawk of all time. So,
yeah, and that is a big approach of mine. Again, these are all things in my head that I think will work for next weekend. But I did consciously say, how many really cool cards can I get under $100? So people who don't want to break the bank can still get fun, meaningful cards for their collection that's affordable. Yep. And there's a lot of cards out there that exist. This one is a little bit of a stretch, but 2004 Fleer Ultra, Warwick Dunn. I like it because it's the platinum medallion parallel out of 66. I just think it's cool. The early 2000s, the numbered cards. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe there'll be a Warwick Dunn fan in the house. And this one for $35, a Michael Vick 2001 Fleer Legacy rookie card out of $9.99 in a PSA 9.
Oh, that's cool. It's like a postcard.
So, fun thing about this set, however, you see how it's posted right on there, like the stamp, September 9th, 2021. Apparently, only the first 300 or so copies had that stamp. So if you look at the verbiage on the back, the front of this card contains an authentic U.S. Postal Service postmark commemorating the NFL debut of Michael Vick. So the cards that don't have this circular stamp don't have that verbiage on the back.
Interesting.
Right?
That's cool.
Yeah. So surprisingly, a card out of $9.99, only like a pop 9 or pop 12 maybe. Really, really low.
Wow. That's a great conversation starter for a Michael Vick or an Atlanta Falcons fan. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and to get into the idea of how I think, I bought that for $35. Someone's not going to scoop that for me for $50.
I think you're right.
That's the thought process there.
That's a Tony Gwynn right there.
Boom. Hall of Fame numbers. What else? What else can I highlight from the pickups? All right, this one's a little nostalgic for me. 2005, 2006, Topps made a 1952 style set, and they had chrome cards in it. Now, this card I solely got to flip because I thought it was super undervalued. I put it on eBay. I already turned down an offer. But a Mickey Mantle playing basketball. Blue refractor numbered out of 149. Yeah, these cards are worth a little more than you might think. I picked this up for like $30 and a 9.5.
That kind of reminds me of the craze about the Tom Brady in the baseball uniform, playing baseball, Mickey Mantle playing basketball, kind of a legend of another sport playing a different sport. And then because you don't get that very often, it's just a unique item that somebody would be maybe interested in.
Except this one wasn't artificially pumped. This was just,
Shots fired.
Is that fair to say?
I guess so. I don't really follow the new market stuff, so I wouldn't really know, but I would believe it. Tom Brady, all the hype around him and baseball, and makes sense.
Yeah. I didn't pick up any Knicks cards, but I saw from Panini Preferred the booklet. You saw the one Knicks booklet card that I have?
Yeah.
The patch version.
Oh wow.
All chunky, dude, all the greats. Ewing, Charles Oakley, Larry Johnson, like unbelievable card. I was just not ready to spend $500 on that.
Yeah.
I just was, but it was so.
That's way different than the non-patch version, which is like what, 100, 150?
Not even. So
not even.
I couldn't do it. Dream card for sure, but just not for me. Got a little soccer, so I picked up this Erling Haaland's gold refractor out of PSA 10 because I think some people know that I collect soccer. So if I'm out at Culture Collision and people see us, I want some soccer there, obviously.
Yeah, and I saw that on was that the one you posted on Instagram?
I did. Yeah, thanks for the like. Appreciate your support.
You're welcome. That's very cool. I like that. Your guy, gold, numbered out of 50, PSA 10. Did he win the Ballon d'Oro, or was that Messi?
He did not. They gave it to Messi. Should have been Haaland. Yeah. But then I traded for a few soccer cards as well. Mbappe, just out of $2.99, a finest purple, PSA 10. A Jude Bellingham autograph card at 75. I always talk about when I talk to people with soccer cards, like what am I having at my table? I keep it real simple. Messi, Haaland, Mbappe, Jude Bellingham, USA guys. So here I am. And this is one way that I prepare for the show, sticking to the basics.
Yeah. And by the way, shout out to Jude Bellingham for sneaking into that upper echelon of top players in the world. Is he really that good?
Yeah, he's a truth. And he's only 20. Starting center midfielder for Real Madrid. Yeah, we're going to be hearing his name for a long time. And he scores a lot of goals for a midfielder, which is not super common.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the last of the bunch, Jim Rice, just on-card autograph. Hey, he's a Hall of Famer for the Red Sox. $10. Yes, please. Karl Anthony Towns, rookie autograph. This was like a $20 card.
Karl Anthony Towns, shout out to your high school.
Why?
Or wasn't that didn't you grow up with Karl Anthony Towns?
No, that's Tobias. Come on.
Oh gosh.
Get your Long Island athletes in order.
But he was Long Island, no?
He's a Jersey guy, I believe.
Oh goodness. I'm so sorry to Karl Anthony Towns. I know he listens to every
he's a listener, so you might want to say sorry for that.
And the Timberwolves, great start for the Timberwolves. Carl, I didn't mean anything by it, big fella.
Last one, also from John behind the diamond. I just think this card's super sweet. 2004 Lear Platinum portraits. Derek Jeter, nice chunky 3-color patch. Numbered out of 100.
That's game used.
Come on now.
Well, I don't know. I gotta check now these days. I mean, you bounce back and forth with a little Mac Jones, but I mean, I know you're tried and true if you're picking up for a show.
Yeah.
Let me see that again. That is sweet.
Nice, right? Also, you got to
th-
consider 2004 Fleer. That was only game one.
I want to maybe talk about doing a side deal behind the table. Well, you got it from behind the diamond. Let's talk behind the table when we're at Culture Collision. Maybe what would you think that's worth?
$100.
That's really not bad. What's it numbered out of?
100.
That's a great patch.
But yeah, so anyway, I know we're talking a lot about like just the cards I got, but this is the show before the show. So what was the purpose of what I'm trying to pick up? Again, we always talk about this. You want your table to represent you. I want someone to be able to look at Carmine, your showcase, and without even knowing you're the one behind it, say, oh, this is Carmine's showcase. I can tell because of X, Y, and Z. So I'm kind of going for the same idea here. You're going to see a ton of chunky patches on my table. You're going to see some soccer as well. I think that kind of symbolizes me. Soccer, chunky patches, a variety of sports. So I think I put myself in a good situation to build off of that for next weekend.
Yeah, definitely. And I love how you tied in your show experience to our show before the show here and preparing to set up. So I went to a trade night, Craig, but it was kind of a little caveat to it because I went there for work. I went there for a sports story. Mm-hmm. And so it was interesting because, if you haven't checked out our last episode, we were talking about 2 tickets to paradise because I'm going down this new sports memorabilia ticket avenue that Craig allowed me the freedom to talk about. And that was great. And we went back and forth talking about both of our experiences with tickets, and Craig did some research and brought up some card sets that are revolved around tickets. So the place I got this ticket from, the 2019 National Championship for college football, where Clemson beat Alabama, was Brian's Sports Cards and More down here in Greenville, South Carolina. So I picked up the ticket from my buddy Matty Rich, great guy. He's a business owner here. He owns the sports card store named after his dad, and his wife and his daughter works in there as well. It's a family business. And I just noticed that, they're good people and they're in a hobby that I, and of course, all of us who are listening enjoy. And he's like, well, I know you work at Fox Carolina. You work, you cover sports, because we were chopping it up and talking for a little while. He said, well, if you're not too busy, Saturday we're having a trade night. Think about coming by if you have the freedom. I'm like, well, it's college basketball season. We got a lot going on, but if I'm free, I'll definitely come by. So I suggested it to my boss, and she and I see sports in the same way. Sports is what we view as a vehicle to talk about life, to talk about connections, kind of like how we present our podcast. Sports Cards, while we do love the cards and we do love the sports, it's a vehicle to talk about life lessons, connections, learning, developing ourselves, making connections with other people. And so that's kind of how we view our sports coverage. So I'm like, okay, let me suggest that to my boss. She's like, oh, that's great. Go do it. Sounds awesome. And it worked out to where Clemson basketball is away, South Carolina basketball is away. So I covered a Wofford and Furman women's basketball game earlier in the day, which was actually, side note, spectacular.
Triple-double, huh?
Yeah, this girl, Rachel Rose from Scranton Prep, which I went to the University of Scranton, so right down the road from where she went to high school, recorded the first triple-double in Wofford women's basketball history. So that was incredible. So I covered that. Then I went to the card trade night at Brian Sports Cards and More. So I went in there, and I'm at work basically. I'm covering it for a story, and I'm thinking about what is a cool way to cover this story, because you walk in and it's like, what's the story here? You're just looking at people trading. There's cards everywhere. There's people everywhere. They're making connections. But like, how do I put this into a 2-minute piece that's going to air on the news? And you can kind of produce the story yourself. So I wanted to go in and either find a boyfriend and a girlfriend, or a husband and a wife, or a dad and a son, or a mother and a son, or a mother and a daughter, whoever was connecting through sports cards.
I like that.
Talk to them along with talking to the owner and what he thinks about hosting this great event where everybody's coming together. And so formulate that story. I talked to this dad and his son, and I can't wait to show you the piece when it comes out this week. Actually, by the time this episode drops, it'll be out, and I'm not sure how I'll get it out for anybody who wants to check it out if you do, because it's really the essence of the hobby that, you know, we all love. So it's this dad and the son, and I mic'd both of them up, and this kid was talking about how it's the best feeling of all time when him and his dad open a pack. He gets a big hit, they high five, they're dancing around. You know, he's like, yeah, we scream at the top of our lungs, and it's a bonding experience. And this kid's vocabulary at just 12 years old, he was off the charts. He's like, oh, how did I do? How did I do? I'm like, bro, believe me, when I put this together, you're going to see how well you did. And he thought it was about him. I didn't tell him I knew anything about sports cards. I'm like, I want you to educate me about the sports card hobby. He's like, all right, I'll educate you. So I got him all excited, you know, hyped up to make him think that he was, you know, giving me the knowledge on the hobby, which was really cool. And he's like, well, this is a rookie card. And so what this is the first card of a player when they get into the league. And he's like, and this is an autograph. So what happens is they give the player a card, he signs his name, and it's just really cool. You know, then you have an autograph card. I'm like, yeah, makes sense. So I'm just like going along with it.
You are a genius for prompting him in such a way.
Yeah. And the great thing was, it was just like when you're doing a deal with a kid at a show or making a trade, it's empowering the kid to be on an equal playing field with adults and giving them that responsibility and that feeling of importance and the equality of like, yeah, I can talk to adults. I can have this level of social skills and, you know, be able to hold my own in a deal or in a situation, in a conversation with people who are older and more experienced. So that was really cool. And one of the big reasons why I like my job, and seeing him and his dad, you know, interacting and smiles and laughing, and it was just great. So I can't wait to put that together. So it was interesting because I was observing a hobby that I'm usually in the middle of. So because I was reporting on the event, I was looking at it as an outsider instead of what I usually would be, a participant in the trade night, making deals myself and kind of in the event. But now I can take a zoomed out view of everything that was happening. So it was kind of like, it was interesting. It was almost like an out of body experience because I'm so, you know, we're in the hobby. We go to shows, we do deals, we're online. And to observe that happening when I'm usually in it, it was really interesting, but it was great. It was really great. And there seemed to be quite a few deals going on.
If you were an outsider looking at that, because that's quite literally what's happening when people see the news story, do you think that trade night conveyed a positive experience and makes people more curious? Like, what are these trade nights? What's this hobby all about? Let me give it a try. Yes,
exactly. I do. I think it was a great community feel. And the card shop owner, Matty Rich, explained it really well. And and a lot of us who are listening and in the hobby know this, but it's good to get a reminder of it from the outside looking in. He's like, you know, perfect strangers are coming together here. Could be adults and kids, could be two adults. And they're immediately in a situation where they're getting along for the most part. You know, they're interacting, they're making a deal, they're working together, they're communicating, and sometimes even becoming friends. So it's just so great to get a refresher on what the hobby's all about, you know, because we're preparing for a show and we're really kind of in the micro view of, oh, well, this card, this value, this trading, you know, how are we going to set up? What's our strategy? And that's all cool too. But to get a macro view and just to realize all the connections that it creates and the cool outlet that it allows us to have. And I saw, you know, 30-year-old guys trying to make a deal with an 8-year-old kid. You know, it's like that situation doesn't happen unless cards are in play. So it was really nice to see and really cool. Everybody was getting along. Lots of young quarterbacks, which was funny because the the Ravens and the Texans were playing at the time on Saturday. And I saw a lot of Lamar Jackson out displayed on people's cases, set up at tables, and people are walking around. CJ Stroud. So that was really cool. And then another thing, if I wasn't working, it's funny because I was like behind the camera, but I'm like, what's your price on that? What's your price on that? I'm like, I probably shouldn't.
Multitasking.
Yeah, multitasking. Yeah, I have the camera in one hand and I have a $20 bill in the other hand. No, I didn't make any deals, but I asked one kid because I saw he had a bunch of index cards of legendary autographs, and I'm like, what do you got on that Joe Montana? What's your price on that while I'm still filming? And he's like, oh, I have no idea. I'm like, if I wasn't filming, I would have told him. He was like a high school kid. I'm like, listen, bro, you got to know, if you don't have your cards priced, at least know what you want for them. Because now what am I? Now we're at a dead end. I can't do anything with that. If you don't know what you want for your thing, how am I going to strike a deal with you? Either cash or trade, so that would be my advice to him if I wasn't filming. But I'm like, oh, okay. And I just moved on. So, but anyway, some lots of modern, but I didn't go through everybody's cases. Because again, I was trying to.
You were there for work. You were there for work.
I was there for work.
And I got to remind myself sometimes when it comes to this hobby and your life responsibilities, don't forget to keep the main thing the main thing.
That's right.
That's such good advice. I have to tell myself and for anyone listening.
Yeah.
Funny you say that because my favorite deal that I did was with a young kid. He was probably 11 or 12. He was there with his other 11 or 12-year-old friend and their dad. I sold this kid. This kid's like, a lot of this stuff in this showcase is not mine. I need new cards. Here's what I got. So I showed him. We were actually able to close a deal. Like how often, I was able to sell 3 cards to him. I gave him a great price. And then I turned around and I said, well, I like those 3 cards. So I'm going to buy some back from you. And it was just a good, wholesome interaction.
That's great.
One more thing I want to highlight about the show, and then let's get into some thoughts for the upcoming show.
Okay.
Bogart Sports Cards. I'm sure you've done deals with him before.
Yes, I have. Good guy.
A couple weeks ago, he had a Dak Prescott autograph, and if you're familiar with Dak Prescott's Prism rookie autograph, you'll see some of it the lettering is so exact. It's because there was an autograph pen, a fake automatic pen used for Dak's signatures.
Yeah, I've heard about the auto pen scandal with those.
With Dak, right. So he realized that, and he put out an Instagram story that he's going to give that card away. The only thing that he asks for in return is whoever claims the card has to donate $50 to My Card Club.
Wow.
So he said he posted that story, and within 30 seconds, someone claimed the card, donated $50 to Bogart Sports Cards. I met him yesterday for the first time. I believe chatted before, but we met in person. Took the $50 and bought a hobby box for my card club that we're going to open next week. So,
man, what a great, to come from my story of the trade night and all the great interactions between kids, adults, and everybody in between. And then to get that hobby, connection and hobby love in your story, that is just so great to think about the kids like that for him.
Yep. Create good experiences and, for the kids because they'll keep coming back, right? That's what it's all about. Now, let me ask you this. We're setting up this weekend. Big show, right? Culture Collision's a big show.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Craig's sneezing, but he so thoughtfully muted his mic. Was that a fifth sneeze?
Yeah, I'm an avid sneezer. Anyway.
Okay.
Great podcasting. All right. Here's my take as we think about setting up at this big show. I'm just going to say a statement here, and I just want you to respond to it.
Okay. I love when you get into teacher mode.
I am not. Here's the scenario, right?
Okay.
I am not going to price my cards at the very least on the front.
Ooh.
I know all of the prices of my cards. I'm going to have it my spreadsheet with me. I know what I'm asking. I'm contemplating putting the prices on the back. The reason I don't want to put the price on the front is 2 reasons. One, I want to know if you're interested in the card, not the price. So if someone's scrolling through a bunch of cards, then they look on the back of the price, I know they at least like that card. The other reason I'm thinking about not pricing the cards is because whoever's interested in buying is just going to look up comps anyway. Your thoughts?
Yeah, that's always a tough one. That's always a tough one as a dealer. And we had a really good discussion about that a while ago. I don't remember how many episodes ago, but I know we've talked about it before. It is different when you're actually pricing your cards for a show rather than just talking about it. You know, like when you're talking about making a deal versus actually sending the money, it's much more real and you really think about the exact strategy. Now, when I've set up before, I've always priced all of my cards
On the front.
on the front. But I do see the advantage to not pricing them, you know, striking up a conversation. And I think also to you, more so to me. I mean, I want the card to go to a good place as well. But to me, if I'm putting it in my showcase, I'm much more concerned about making money than I am the card going to a good home. Unless I'm moving it out of my PC into somebody else's, then I'm more concerned about, okay, where is it going? Is it going to a good home? But if I'm putting stuff in my showcase, then, you know, I think the person's interested in the card for whatever reason they're interested in it for. If it's going to be a flip, if it's going to be for PC, as long as they buy it at a price that makes sense to me, I don't really care as much about if they really love the card. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But so I hadn't really, just because it's been a habit of mine to price my cards, I haven't really thought about, am I not going to price my cards? So, but I think your strategy could work. I mean, you know, so you're betting on somebody, you're betting on actually handing it to the person as far as giving them the card so that they can look on the back, or how do you view that discussion going?
So I'm going to have a small value box. I think there should be room at a table for like a small value box. One row. So I'm thinking I have my cards out at a showcase. Someone sees that Erling Haaland gold refractor and they see a price on it.
Mm-hmm.
They may see the price and just move on from it. Or maybe they'll ask about, can you do better on that? As opposed to, there's no price on it and someone says, what are you asking on that? I now know that person's interested in that card automatically. Now, I think with you and I, we don't have your run-of-the-mill mainstream type cards, right?
True.
You're not going to find a Justin Herbert Opticalo at my table.
Right.
We're kind of like, the price is what it is. So my thought is, if I have a card out here and it's not something you're going to find anywhere else, I almost don't even care about the comp. In my head, it's just, I know I paid 40. I'm going to price it at 60. If you like that price, or maybe you like it a little less, great. If not, okay, we'll move on.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I was listening to a great episode on our buddies, the Cousins Collectibles podcast with Oz and Tony. Oz, of course, the people's mailman. And they had our buddy who we will be setting up with, as I referenced in this episode, Big Ken at Sports Card Lessons. And he was talking about this same topic, Craig. And I'm interested to hear what you think, because at the shows that you've set up at recently and that I've set up at, the smaller community shows, let's say maybe 100 tables or fewer, there's not as much foot traffic. At a show like Atlanta, Culture Collision, there's going to be thousands of people walking past, looking real quick in the showcase, like a conveyor belt of people just going through, like a sports card factory. And they're just passing, you know, looking real quick. Now, what Ken was saying and what his strategy was at the National as well, because there was so much foot traffic, he put his prices on the cards because he was concerned that if he didn't, he wouldn't have the opportunity to talk to everybody because there's so many people going past. So what he did was give them a visual, knowing what price, you know, they'd be paying, so that that person could know immediately if they should continue staying at the table, because he was worried that moment might pass and that he wouldn't actually get that moment to explain the price to them or hand them the card because it was a bigger show. So would you change your strategy knowing that this is a really large show with so much more foot traffic than usual, or do you think that'll still work? I mean, it's impossible to know how many people will be there and what the opportunities will be now, but I don't know, just something to consider with how many people might be coming by.
It's a valid point. I think I don't have that much inventory, and I think I know my cards well enough that even if someone just walks by, hey, what are you asking on this? 50. Boom, I just know it. But again, these are just thoughts.
Okay.
The best laid plans of mice and men often go awry, right? So we could show up to the show. My strategy is one thing. All of a sudden, we see there's a lot of foot traffic, and now it makes sense to price everything. That is why I was considering putting prices on the back. So
Yeah.
if I need to quickly audible, sticker, boom, bring it to the front.
Ah, okay.
You know what
Okay.
I'm saying?
So what you could do, and also because I'm going to be there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in Atlanta. You're going to be there Friday and Saturday. So what you could do is let's put you in the shoes of Nick Saban. Let's say Friday in the national championship game, you go with Jalen Hurts and you put the prices on the back. That might not work so well in the first half. Saturday, you might put Tua in the game and change your strategy, put the stickers on the front, and win a national championship like Nick Saban did. So you could always, like you said, audible your game plan, see how it goes on that Friday, see what the interactions are like, the interest in the cards. Do you have enough time to talk to each person as they're coming by? Or is the moment too quick? And then maybe Saturday you need to change and see what that holds for your future in that case.
Again, possibly. We'll see what happens. We'll see how Friday. I don't know. There's a new experience, right?
Yeah.
Even though we're seasoned hobby veterans, this is a new experience, and I'm like trying to humble myself and realize that like I'm in. This is an away game. This isn't a home game, right? So just feel out the crowd and stick to the same principles we've been talking about for the last 70 episodes.
And it's funny you mention away game because we will be going to a game. The Atlanta Hawks hosting the Dallas Mavericks on Friday night. And we will also have a great card show vlog, at least one, maybe 2 parts. I'm thinking it might be 2 parts, because we've done that for the National, Burbank, San Francisco. You had one card show in the Northeast that you did a card show vlog of. So if you're not familiar with those, definitely check those out on the Crosstown Cardboard YouTube. And if you haven't subscribed to us on YouTube or podcast, make sure you do that. Like, comment, rate, review. We love the participation and everybody enjoying and joining in our hobby journey and us with anybody as well, giving whatever we can to the hobby. So, Craig, we're talking about the show before the show, how we're preparing for Atlanta. We're continuing to talk about that topic. So I thought, who's a guy who everybody likes in the hobby? Who's on the peak? Who's on Mount Hobby, as the cousins call it? Who's on the top?
As far as who people in this hobby like?
Yeah.
Big Ken.
Okay. The Big Ken of basketball.
Okay. Oh, Steph Curry.
No. Okay. But yes. But who's on the peak?
Michael Jordan.
Yes. The Mount
I know where you're
Everest.
going with this.
The Mount Everest of Mount
Yes.
Hobby.
Yes.
So I picked up 2 in my preparation for Atlanta for our card show. I picked up 2 game used jersey cards of Michael Jordan. And I got one, it's called Swatch of Class from SP Game Used 0708. It has the S and it has a white napkin jersey of Jordan, game used, throwing down a great jam. And then this one is actually really cool. It's from 2000 Upper Deck legendary jersey. It's actually 1999 2000 NBA Legends. So it's from way back, almost 25 years ago.
That's cool. I like that.
And it's a game used jersey with a sweet design. One of the first years game used jerseys were a thing. So I thought this was super cool. I bought those in a 2-card lot. What do you think I paid total between these 2?
For the lot?
Just the 2 total.
Together 400.
Yeah, 375.
That sounds about right. I would imagine the one on the top probably worth more.
Yeah. The one on the top in a PSA 8 just went for $550.
Oh, dude, you made a killing.
Yeah, so I thought that was really, really good. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But that's my preparation. And as everybody who's listened to our episodes knows, we do a mixture of flipping and collecting. So, of course, if we're setting up for a show, we're thinking of what price do we need to be at in these cards? What will people be interested in? We're thinking in that more selling mindset. But I also did get a collection piece in, Craig, and I referenced this on our last episode, 2 Tickets to Paradise, also involving the peak of Mount Hobby, Michael Jordan. And it is, if you're not familiar with our last episode, it's the ticket from 2003 in which Michael Jordan played his last game at Madison Square Garden. And the Knicks won by 1 point, 97-96. Michael Jordan scored 39 points at 40 years old. And he scored 26 in the first half in his final game at MSG. This is in a PSA 6, and it's a Pop 1, none higher. So it's the highest graded ticket in existence of Michael Jordan's last game at Madison Square Garden. And for now, this is in the collection for sure. So 3 Michael Jordan pickups this week, 2 cards for sale of the game used jerseys, and 1 in the PC of Jordan's last game at MSG.
And if we're going to talk about pickups and PC and the number 3, I'd be remiss to not mention what card I was able to pick up last week.
Okay.
How I already had, I mean, you know this.
Oh my gosh, yes.
My favorite card in probably my whole collection, 0506, SP Game Used, Walt Frazier, Bernard King, dual game worn patch autograph out of 25. So a card produced 20 years ago out of 25. I already had one. I was able to pick up one from DA Card World and an offline deal about a month or 2 ago. And then shout out to our guy, Will, Prolific Sports Cards.
Yes, Will.
Through an NBA Australia basketball card group, was able to connect me with someone who connected me with someone else to close a deal for a 3rd copy of that said card. And look, if you have a favorite card that you love, you double, you triple down, because now I have 12% of the print run.
Bro, that is unbelievable that you have 3 out of 25 of your favorite card now with Walt Frazier, Bernard King, the 2 autos, the 2 patches. And I was amazed, and we talked about this on a previous episode. I was amazed when you just got 2 of them.
Yeah.
And now you have 3.
Yeah. And you know, they're all different in their own way between like the autographs and the patches. And if you think about patch cards, they're like snowflakes, right? No one patch swatch is the same.
Right. That's true. And it's just so funny that you have 3 of those dual autos, and I have 2 of my favorite pair between Magic and Bird. And I mentioned this also on a recent episode. The 2 cards that I now have of the dual autographs of the exquisite finalists, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, also numbered out of 25. So how crazy is it that you have 3 of your dual autograph? I have 2 of my dual autograph. And how these cards, because we're broadcasting our interests and on the Crosstown Cardboard podcast and on our Instagrams, these cards have kind of just found us in some cases.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fair. We manifested them. That's why. And I cannot wait to see. I think that's one of my favorite things about setting up as a dealer, not just the interactions and talking to people and making deals, but people bring their stuff to you. Stuff, right? You never know what you're going to see. And I'm very excited for that element of mystery. Just like any show where you walk in, you don't know what you're going to find. I feel like it's going to be that times 100 in Atlanta this weekend. Let's go.
And I love that about your ability as well. When you're at a show, the ability to adapt to whatever situation, like you said, the mystery of the show, but then noticing what's happening and being able to make something good of the situation that you never expected, just using all those experiences that you've had to now make a new experience in the present situation that's presenting itself.
Well, honestly, it's funny you put it out like that, because being a public school teacher for 10 years now has prepared me for that, because kids are just reckless and unpredictable. So you plan for one thing, things don't go that way, and you just got to figure out how to adjust on the fly. So I guess I'm built for this.
Yeah. And similar with me with live TV. For example, I'll give you a quick example of adjusting, because it's so important in the card hobby. And I just think this situation was kind of crazy. So I was getting ready to go live reporting at the first ever Clemson women's gymnastics meet. It's the first year they've ever had a team, and I was there covering. It was awesome. I mean, the Little John Coliseum was sold out, 8,000 people to watch this college gymnastics meet. And I'm actually going back there. Today's Sunday at the time of recording. I'm going back there to cover another one today. So I was getting ready to go live. The national anthem starts playing. And I'm like, oh boy, this is not good, because I don't want to be talking over the national anthem. That's disrespectful to.
Very unpatriotic of you.
Right. And all the people who, put so much stake in the national anthem, which I believe it's incredibly important too. I don't want to be talking over. Who am I to talk over our country's national anthem? So I'm like, okay, I got to adapt. So I'm like, well, I'm going to just, the national anthem's playing right now. Out of respect for the national anthem, we're just going to go to my story on the history behind this moment, and I'll catch you on the other side. So just quickly get out of there. That was a moment of adapting. And then coming back after the story that I've had put together, coming back to me live, another moment of adapting that relates to adapting the cards. The lights were completely bright, ready to roll. I'm getting ready to go live. I start talking, couple sentences in, the lights dim. The starting lineup introductions for Clemson gymnastics are beginning. So I'm, live on TV talking about how awesome this moment is and the history behind it, how we've gotten here. And then the lights dim. And then I'm like, noticing, and I'm like, and as the lights are dimming behind me, that means we're ready to roll, so just rolling with the punches and actually using that as an opportunity to get more excited and to get, more into the moment of the event taking place. I think that's a key of like having the comfortability of, I've never been in this situation. Now relating it back to card deals. I've never been in this situation before, but knowing that you've done several deals similar, you have a lot of experience to build on. And so you're prepared for this moment, even though you haven't been in this exact situation before.
I feel very motivated after hearing that, because I'm not going to lie, I'm so excited for Atlanta, but there's definitely a sense of nervousness. I've never been to this show, and I've never set up at a big show.
Right.
So I'm humble enough to realize, like, yeah, I consider myself an expert in this. That's not me showing off. When you've been collecting cards for 2 decades plus, you know your stuff. Even with that, I'm a little jittery. But like I tell all my players, myself, like as an athlete, I think if you get nervous before a game, it's because you care and you're excited. So
right,
these are good jitters. And I can't wait to put on a show.
At the show.
Like that.
So what's your self-talk heading into this big show? Like, I know you haven't set up at a show of this size before. I've only set up at a show of this size at Burbank for one weekend. What do you think are some things for us to, back into your teacher mode, some mentalities to keep in mind heading into this show?
Easy, simple. You ever see the movie Hoosiers?
Yeah.
They show up to the gym and he like measures the height of the hoop and it's just like, it's a 10-foot hoop. It's a basketball. It's a court. At the end of the day, that's what it is, right? It's about, no matter where you are, it's a game of basketball. Same thing. No matter where the location is, it's cards.
It's cards.
Cards.
So just to think about that in our head when we might start to get overwhelmed by the size, the number of people, the activity.
Or the lack of activity.
Or
not getting discouraged when things aren't maybe moving for you, because I always tell myself that, but just give it time and deals start to flow.
Yeah, great point. Yep. So just remember, it's cards. The ups and downs of cards, but we have the knowledge and the excitement and the people skills, people care to make it happen no matter the situation.
Amen. I will see you in less than a week. Very exciting.
I know it's going to be great. Just the second time ever we've gotten to hang out, and we're actually going to get some nice time one-on-one at the game to just kick it, watch the Hawks, watch the Mavs, chill, decompress after what will have been day one of the show at that time. And Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. That should be great. And then by the time our next episode comes out, we'll have an episode on the recap of Culture Collision in Atlanta, how it went for us, deals we made, possibly PC cards we came away with, how much fun we had together and stuff like that. So what are some goals that you're thinking about heading into this show?
Turn over a lot of inventory just because it's fun to do. And I always say every show you go to, and we've talked about this on here, and if you leave the show with at least one card that's staying in your collection, that's a win. But given the time we're putting into this and the magnitude of the show, let's take that one and make it 3. I would like to add at least 3 PC cards to my collection, whether it be Knicks, soccer, vintage, whatever it is. 3 new cards that are coming with me to stay. How about you?
Okay. Thanks for asking, bro. Yeah, so I think that's a great goal. 3 new PC cards for you and turning over inventory. I can't lie. With this ticket obsession, I'm going to have 4 tickets by the time and I'll talk about my newest ticket real quick. Actually, you know what? Let me pull it up because by the time we're going to record the next episode, we may not have time because we're going to be doing so much Culture Collision recap and hopefully talking about some PC cards that we picked up. So I might as well talk about my 4th ticket that I've picked up in a matter of, I think, like 2.5 weeks of buying tickets and really getting into this niche part of the hobby. Tell me what you think of this. I picked up this ticket, which is from the first ever ESPN College Game Day on the road, 1993.
Yeah, that seems very fitting for you.
Yeah, 1993 College Game Day, of course, synonymous with college football for the last 30 years. Anybody who's a college football fan is most likely a fan of ESPN's College Game Day. This was the first game that they actually went to on location. It was a studio show before this game in 1993. And this game was billed as the game of the century. Notre Dame against Florida State. It was number 1 against number 2 in the country. And it relates to the Knicks because who was the quarterback for Florida State? Do you know?
Charlie Ward.
Yes, Heisman Trophy winner who ended up playing for the Knicks instead of pursuing his football career.
See, we know sports.
Sports guys. So Notre Dame won that game 31-24 over Florida State. And I just think that's, me formerly working at ESPN and being in sports broadcasting and now covering college football, Clemson and South Carolina Gamecocks. For me to have a ticket from the first ever College Game Day in my collection now from 1993 is pretty cool. It's a PSA 7. It's a Pop 1, and there's only 1 graded higher. So it's the second nicest copy of the ticket from this game. 1 against 2 in the country. First ever College Game Day on the road. And, I just picked that up. So let me ask you this. Because the ticket market is much more difficult to value these items than cards, what would you think that that's worth off the top of your head?
Oh,
I know it's really difficult.
$200.
Yeah, I bought it for $225.
Okay.
And what I liked about that price was that a PSA 1 recently sold for $180. I got a PSA 7 for $225.
Easy.
So I thought that was really good, and for a collection piece that's going to stay with me. So I'll just complete this story because, we can also decide how long we go because we're the CEOs of Crosstown Cardboard. And it seems like people are liking the decently long episodes. So thank you for everybody who is sticking around, listening to a bunch of different topics that we have to talk about. And like I always like to say, joining in this hobby journey with us and sharing the excitement. So I was on eBay just perusing, trying to do some research. In a way, it was the show before the show for me to do research on tickets before jumping into the ticket market. So I'm looking at, going down rabbit holes. I'm seeing interesting tickets. I'm clicking on those items. I'm clicking on the seller's profile and seeing all the different tickets that they have for sale. Just seeing, what would be cool in my collection? Oh, that's priced at that. Okay, that's a cool moment I didn't think about. And just doing a little research. So I saw that College Game Day first ever, on location ticket. I'm like, that's really cool. So I messaged the guy. I said, hey, here's my Instagram. Can you contact me here? I would love to do a deal similar to what I did for the 1992 NBA All-Star Game ticket of Magic Johnson with the autograph. And that worked out. So he's like, I don't have Instagram, but I do have my contact info here. He sent me a screenshot. Like you said, great way to get in touch with people on eBay, but to contact them off of eBay. Sent me his phone number and his email. So I had my off day a few days ago, called him up. I said, hey, is this the guy with the tickets on eBay? You gave me your number. I'm interested in this ticket. He's like, yeah, this is Marshall. I'm like, oh, I'm Carmine. Two complete strangers. We ended up talking for half an hour about all his experiences being from Indiana. And again, the ticket that I got was from a Notre Dame game. He's had Notre Dame season tickets for men's basketball for a decade. He has a ticket, which actually the anniversary just passed, of when Notre Dame men's basketball broke UCLA's 88-game winning streak at the time with Bill Walton. And he has a ticket from that game. He has a bunch of, coincidentally, Larry Bird stuff. Of course, Larry Bird being from Indiana, playing at Indiana State, he's the state bird of Indiana. And so that also opened the lane to me forming a connection with him in a relationship to where he can maybe sell me some Larry Bird tickets in the future. But it was just so great. Again, the connections with the hobby, and I don't mean to keep harping on that and sound corny, but we all know it's true that I can just call a guy up. I'm in South Carolina, he's in Indiana, and we have no connection other than both having interest in sports tickets. And we immediately form a connection and a friendship and make a deal and talk for half an hour on the phone after being complete strangers because of a shared interest in this hobby. And it was just awesome. We made the deal. It was easy. I basically paid him a little bit more than what he had into it. He was completely honest. He's like, here's what I have into it. If you can give me this, it's a deal. I said, then it's a deal. And now I have an awesome ticket for my collection off of a complete stranger.
You guys made a deal and you talked about over the phone. Hey, what's next? We're going to start a podcast together for 2 years.
Oh, you know what's funny? I actually invited him on the podcast. His name is Marshall. I think because of his yeah, we are Marshall. That's right. And he has such a wealth of knowledge on tickets. And I just think it would be a cool, because I've picked up this interest and you've dealt with tickets before, that it would be somebody who would be a typical guest for Crosstown Cardboard, which is ironically somebody who's atypical in their interests, because you don't always see people who are interested in sports tickets. It's a cool niche, and this guy does a lot of them on eBay and collects a lot of them. So I think it'd be cool to have him on, and he said he'd be down for it. So we'll have to see if we can make that work.
If he's down, I'm down. Let me get going to soccer practice.
Yes.
Time to get some work in with the youth.
Yep.
But hey, fun stuff coming up. I'll see you in ATL.
Sounds good, bro. See you then.
Peace.